Travis Wingoodsell. Alrighty. Before I showered and shaved, I replied to a comment on my old channel by a person belonging to the RLDS Church, as they claim they were. And they were thanking me for a video that I did where I vindicated Joseph Smith for not being a polygamist, and telling me that the RLDS Church has passed it on generation to generation that Joseph Smith was not polygamist, and that, he reminded me they came from Emma, which he didn't need to. But yeah, that's why Emma didn't go with Brigham Young, guys. He tried to extort Emma to go with him like they did Hiram's wife, and succeeded. But Emma was stubborn enough and hated Brigham enough, as I'm sure she suspected he was the murderer, to refuse to go with him. And I'm sure Brigham never bothered to push, as he sent others to threaten her anyway. And I brought up to this person from the RLDS Church some more stuff that I'd learned since then supporting Joseph Smith was not a polygamist. And I already did the video telling you about John Dehlin deceiving ex-Mormons, perpetuating the lies of the Brighamite Church about Joseph Smith not being a translator, being a polygamist, developing the endowment ceremony, and all other sorts of stuff. But it was actually Brigham Young who completely changed everything. And when the church finally came out and confessed with the gospel topic essays, there was a mass exodus of Mormons who are now ex-Mormon. And the reason why they left is because they believed the church after they confessed to lying. And so I told the RLDS member, which is Community of Christ now, but they wanted to refer me to them as RLDS. I replied saying how frustrating it is for me not only to try to convince Mormons that Joseph Smith was the good guy and innocent, but also ex-Mormons. Ex-Mormons are just as stubborn as Mormons. They just insist that Joseph is a warlock practicing witchcraft, or a polygamist raping a 14-year-old girl, or plagiarizing the Book of Mormon. And it's so frustrating to get even ex-Mormons, and then to the ex-Mormons following guys like John Dehlin, as he gets hundreds of thousands of followers and becomes a cult leader in and of himself, to perpetuate the lies of Joseph Smith that the church confesses to but says is no big deal. Yeah, so what if he's a polygamist? So what if he raped a 14-year-old? So what? He's a prophet of God. Oh my God. So what if he had a death penalty? So what if he's got Lucifer's star? That's Freemasonry. Yeah. And so yeah, everything the church confesses to, they're saying is no big deal. Move along. We're hinge pointing now under Nelson, blah, blah, blah. As Nelson wants to bring back polygamy, as I caught him in the act with his temple changes, and then he went and said, I'm changing the covenants again, that isn't telling us how he changed and what he changed. Because even with the changes with the law of obedience, where women no longer have to obey their husbands, they now can wear the pants in the family, which has always been the case because women refuse to be slaves in the church anymore after their polygamous days. They just destroy themselves, implode, and we're seeing it now as mass exodus has occurred from the church. But part of what I also wanted to mention is that as Nelson has been completely changing the church, I mean drastically changing the church. He's created an idol god statue with his god on top of the church. And denying Mormons exaltation by taking away the high priesthood. Only if you become a leader now will you get the high priesthood, which means that only high priests are the ones worthy enough for marriage, and so all the elders in the New World Order under the Church of Lucifer will have to become a high priest in order to get a wife, and thus there will be a lot of extra women, and so as a high priest you get lots of extra women, even down to 14-year-old girls again. And so this October conference, I did the video, which is doing very well. About how Nelson did a Facebook post outright declaring priestcraft. And just, yeah, okay. We can just go through the Book of Mormon and find out which things he's going to violate. Priestcraft, yeah, that was on the checklist. Check it off. Bingo! Nelson bingo. Which will he violate from the Book of Mormon? Bingo! And so, yeah, place your bets now as to what he's going to violate in October conference, assuming, of course, the Department of Justice under Attorney General Barr does not proceed with a special investigation or an actual taking over of the lawsuit from me. And if you're unfamiliar, AON, which is trying to take viewers from Fox, as Fox is getting a little soft and pudgy towards Trump, they are the Q. They're the news for Q. And they're sponsored by Russia. So there you go. Q is Russia, the disinformation campaign. But what are they constantly deceiving people about? Oh, the Democrats and celebrities are these satanic pedophiliacs. Oh, well, what if all of a sudden Trump declares he's found the deep state and that it's Mormons and has them locked up for being this secret deep state QAnon AON reported organization within the government? It'll be a little disappointing that it's not Democrats. He'll have to try to some way find Hillary Clinton having met with the missionaries to be a secret Mormon. But Mitt Romney, oh, he's going to love it. Because, are you not familiar with the Boy Scouts of America? What happened in the Boy Scouts of America? They're now bankrupt. Why are they now bankrupt? The church abandoned them, pulled all their funding. Why did they pull all their funding and abandon the Boy Scouts? Too many lawsuits of boys saying, hey, I was raped by my Mormon, what do you call him? Scoutmaster. So the church sent the Mormon boys to be raped and the Scoutmasters to rape them. And the Boy Scouts took the fall for it as the church abandoned them. And then you have satanic. Well, satanic? I'm sure the church doesn't have the symbol of Lucifer anywhere on Temple Square, on the temple, of the door, of the arch, on the keystone, or on the Eagle Gate, or on the Nauvoo Temple, after murdering Joseph and Hiram, who would then therefore be the sunstones, underneath having been conquered by the inverted pentagrams of Lucifer above them. I'm sure that's not satanic at all. And so, yeah, Trump's gonna just go nuts. This will be all he'll talk about for all of October, if Barr recognizes it and knows how to craft it to keep Trump distanced from it. Remember Epstein? Yeah, all those videos and pictures of Trump and Epstein, buddies, and the audio tapes. Oh yeah, he likes women like I do, and even on the younger side. Uh-huh. Yeah. Epstein's death conveniently saved Trump on that one. And a lot of other people as well. And so, yeah, there's Kompromat that Putin has on the church. And when Nelson came out in his first conference and said, and a temple in a major city yet to be determined in Russia. What that does is reveal to all Mormondom and the whole entire universe that Putin has compromised the church. Because you don't do business in Russia without getting compromised. You can think that you're the church of God and the true church and God will protect you and blah blah blah, but you don't do business with Russia. It's like a company of the Nephites going to the Lamanite Master King, the superior king, whom they always called Laman, as the Nephites always called their kings Nephi for a period of time until Benjamin and then Mosiah, or Mosiah, then Benjamin and Mosiah. And trying to say, hey, we'd like to build a temple patterned after Solomon's temple in your land. Is that okay? You know what would happen? Yeah. He might allow them to build a temple. It would be to Laman. And so, yeah, you don't do business with the enemy. You can't think that, oh, I'll be wise as a serpent but innocent as a was it a dove? Because I don't think it was a lamb. But you can't do it. They won't let you. And so, sure enough, Max Roth from Fox 13 News Utah comes out in May, a month after, and says, we have documentation of the LDS Church having filed LLC corporations immediately after Hatch's tax bill, you know, that was supposed to be for the poor. I was born poor! How dare you, Senator, Democrat Senator, was it, I can't remember his name offhand. I don't think it's Jones. But, I mean, Hatch just pops a vein, claiming it was for the poor and blah, 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 and condemns him for saying, no, this is only for the rich. What are you doing? You're trying to pull a fast one over on the American people. And so Hatch blew a fuse, and yeah, and it turns out, yeah, it was for the rich and for LLC corporations, and thus the church started LLC corporations right after it got approved, as it was rushed as well. because you have to have it rushed so that you can start the LLC companies at the beginning of the year, or at the end of the year to start the beginning of the year, something like that. And so, yeah, $32 billion were funneled through those LLC corporations, as reported by Max Roth. And I'm sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with a quid pro quo to have a temple in Russia. Yeah, not likely. And so, as I've warned you, Russia doesn't just stop at one kompromat, which in this case was money laundering for them. Hey, yeah, sure, you want to launder some money for us. If you want your temple, launder some money for us. Okay, well, we'll have to hide it. We'll have to get Trump to also put in the tax bill that LLC companies no longer have to report where the money comes from. Done. So Putin puts in a call to Trump. Done. And so, yeah, that's how it works, guys. You follow the money. That's the first thing you do. Mueller forgot to do that. And so I warned you that they don't just stop with one kompromat. Because what did Nelson do in that very first conference? Oh yeah, all you high priests, you're no longer in the high priest group. You're going to be grandfathered out. You're going into the elders' quorum. And you can only be a high priest now if you become a leader of the church. So, elders, yeah, middle finger to you all. You are not getting exalted. And then took away home teaching. Boy, wouldn't it have been nice to have had home teaching during this coronavirus so that every member in the ward could be contacted by phone to make sure everything's okay, they have sanitation, food, etc. during the coronavirus so that they can stay home the whole time until it passes over. Wouldn't it have been nice? And then I told you, I showed you, Russia knows about my lawsuits against the church. They pay attention. I have 2 Russians on a regular basis letting me know they're there by putting a thumbs down. They are consistent. The other 2 Russians sort of bailed. They are paying attention, guys. I've told you. They've also reached out to me to get my Paleo-Hebrew information. They've also reached out to me to get my translation of Egyptian petroglyphs information. They know what they're doing. They've also, as I've informed you, had a guy who's at the Moscow University who did an article that he posted on academia.edu talking about the church's connection to Freemasonry. I, however, exposed that he's got it all wrong. Nonetheless, they don't care. That's what they do. They take something that people are familiar with but don't quite know anything about. They get somebody who claims to be a professional on the subject, and they put out misinformation to the public. You know, sort of like what the church does about polygamy of Joseph Smith. And so the church would then be compromised if they don't do what Putin wants them to do. So if October conference comes around and Nelson decides, you know, I'm going to be a good boy this time, I'm not going to do what Putin wants me to do. Putin just says, okay guys, release it. And the Hillary emails are released. But in this case, other stuff that will destroy the church. Russia's membership numbers are not listed on the church's membership numbers. It's a blank. all the way across, except for Russia's population. And for that, we have to trust Russia. But so apparently, the church still assigned 2 or 3 new mission presidents in Russia this year. But yet there were missionaries arrested, claiming, or that Russia was claiming that they were acting as missionaries. And the church insists, no, they're not missionaries. Yes, they are. They're young boys assigned to the mission field of labor. They just are pulling an Ammon rather than a missionary. If you don't know your Book of Mormon, Ammon went to one of the tributary kings of the Lamanites and said, I'm not here to preach, I'm just here to serve. So there's Russ again. Hold on. But yeah, pay attention, guys. It's going to get ugly.